Sending shots with this chop, that's a dick pic. I can't mix with your block, I'm a misfit. Slide on my feet for a mission. Finna light your street up like it's Christmas. In a Shark Tank, talking big shit. Just know that everything behind me soon to pass away. Ballin' on our own island, no castaway. I was trying to learn the craft, I can't masquerade. Every time we make magic, yeah, gotta have the cake. They say the flowers in May, spring from the showers in April. Burning sage by the pound, all of her crystals is labeled. Try to line your agree with meditation, you able. And you might get a read, tarot cards on the table. And she better have an altar in her living room. Sending shots with this chop, that's a dick pic. I can't mix with your block, I'm a misfit. Slide on my feet for a mission. Finna light your street up like it's Christmas. In a Shark Tank, talking big shit. Even out my pond, I'm a big fish. In a Shark Tank, talking big shit. Even out my pond, I'm a big fish. My nigga never leave a mission unfinished. Record still spotless, little nigga unblemished. You can feel the tension change every time they mention me. That song game, run his name, it's for squeaky clinky history. Put him out his brains and his misery. Seriously, here he switching teams, wipe his memory. Instantly, on replay, I see it vividly. In the streets, they bumping your guns, now you looking weak. Got in his face for the fade and he couldn't speak, cooking him. Heard his own mama couldn't look at him. Left him on his knees, facing east like a Muslim. Destroy a nigga temple, break it down like Jerusalem. I'm finna have the streets on key and a padlock. And I got a lawyer like Madlock. I can never fold, I'm no laptop. You ain't never in the game, you a mascot. Sending shots with this chop, that's a dick pic. I can't mix with your block, I'm a misfit. Slide on my feet for a mission. Finna light up your street like it's Christmas. In a Shark Tank, talking big shit. Even out my pond, I'm a big fish. In a Shark Tank, talking big shit. Even out my pond, I'm a big fish. I swear to God, they ain't never seen this much sauce. Finna cut a rug like a bus off. Pray to God that my jam don't get cut off. I'ma do the dance in the trance, let me get off. I'm at the center of two ladies playing pickle. You can call me Malcolm, I'm the man in the middle. Catch me on stage pulling strings like a fiddle. Chevy chasing cheese like my name's Stuart Little. She like a rough, I push her brains in the pillow. Ask her if she rolling and she hand me the Rillo. So I'm twisting up this raspberry drizzle. And every single puff like a bag full of Skittles. And you gon' think they pulling chairs when I hit the flow. Right behind her pulling hair while she hit the dro. I got that 40 on my hip while she getting low. And I think she getting wet when she feel the pole. Sending shots with this chop, that's a dick pic. I can't mix with your block, I'm a misfit. Slide on my feet for a mission. Finna light your street up like it's Christmas. In a Shark Tank, talking big shit. Even out my pond, I'm a big fish. In a Shark Tank, talking big shit. Even out my pond, I'm a big fish. Just know that everything behind me soon to pass away. Ballin' on our own island, no castaway. I was trying to learn the craft, I can't masquerade. Every time we make magic, yeah, gotta have the cake. They say the flowers in May spring from the showers in April. Burning sage by the pound, all over crystals is labeled. Try to line your re with meditation, you able, and you might get a read. Tarot cards on the table, and she better have her altar in her living room. Really ever lighting candles cause she in the mood. Not to mention love spells she was sending through. Tip a petition too old soon if you feeling blue. It feels strange to find a guide on the voyage. No, you ain't the same, I can feel it in your aura. Came on point like the horns of a Taurus. Say you won't change, better take that thing to oil. Have to think the constellations for the day they made you. Shit, ever since a minor I've been playing major. Call me Private Ryan, I was trying to save you. See the stars is all aligning, they designing greatness. So I be racing when we only chasing soul ties. You finna be the centerpiece of my soul tribe. No twin flame soulmates from an old life. So I'm thinking Mauricia and you know why.
That girl mine, that girl mine. You don't wanna feel a black girl mine. You don't wanna make a black girl mine. But they always want with the black girl. I ain't talking about no rabbit in a hat trick. I say how it happened, this black girl. I ain't talking about no rabbit in a hat trick. I say how it happened, this black girl. And she gotta have a altar in the living room. Really never like candles cause she ain't a fool. Not to mention love spells she was sending through. Tell petition to her soon if you feeling blue.
They say the flowers in May spring from the showers in April. Burning sage by the pound, all over crystals is labeled. Try to line your re with meditation you able, and you might get a read. Tarot cards on the table.
That girl mine, that girl mine. You don't wanna feel a black girl mine. You don't wanna make a black girl mine. But they always want with the black girl. I ain't talking about no rabbit in a hat trick. I say how it happened, this black girl. I ain't talking about no rabbit in a hat trick. I say how it happened, this black girl.
Definitely. Power to the dark side, everybody that's in the building. Got to give a special praise to the most beautiful goddess of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, Stemia, whose image is the most beautiful Whoopi Goldberg. Definitely want to shout out all my Babel builders that's in the building, all those who already typed, those who watching from the clouds, and all those who will be coming in. Shout out to Miss Royal. Definitely appreciate you in the building. What's good? Power to the dark side who raised you, boy. Shout out to the Commissioner Angel in the mix. What's good with you, Hood Therapy? What's going on? So yeah, I got a few things lined up. We're just gonna get into a couple of clips. Probably, matter of fact, I'm gonna go ahead and drop it now. What's good? Shout out to Westside Rider. Appreciate you in the building, God Body. What's good? Of the day. Yeah, so yeah, man, we definitely gonna be getting into this Roe versus Wade. This will be like a part 2, basically. I think y'all remember we had kind of got on this discussion a little while back. And it ended up being a pretty good panel. A few people jumped on, expressed how they kind of felt about it, what it meant for us. A few people actually had some alternative like routes or whatever for different women and different things like that who still just ways to kind of maybe naturally practice but not yeah, I'll leave that on. But yeah, so shout out to everybody who did that on the last show, those who actually caught the last one, which it was I might actually still have some of the clips from that one, but and if I do, I think I do. Some of those was pretty ridiculous that we was watching and kind of reacting to, but we gonna go ahead and check out this one though real quick. So yeah, let's go ahead and start it out.
We're living in tumultuous times, and if you thought yesterday was rough, it is only going to get rougher. Once the Supreme Court released its decision to strip away a woman's ability to make decisions about her own body, several states followed suit, one after the other. Women in much of the country could face fines or even jail time for seeking the care they need. In Louisiana, doctors now have to decide between being sentenced up to 10 years in prison or honoring their oath. With the decision, women who still choose to get an abortion will not have the access to do it safely. I know many of you are wondering, what can we do? Some people are going to tell you the answer is to vote. Some people are going to tell you the answer is to organize. Some people are going to say the answer is to tear it all down and start over. I'm here to tell you there's no one-size-fits-all solution here. I am here to tell you that it's going to take time. I'm here to tell you that you cannot just out-organize over 60 years of work from the Republican Party apparatus overnight. I'm here to tell you that people are going to have to get innovative and creative. I'm here to tell you it might be time for some real court reform on the Supreme Court. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas has already made his plans clear. The right to marry who you love, access to contraception, the right to privacy. Read the concurring opinion, y'all. It is what he said after the decision came down. Now, let me say this. Vice President Harris said, the great aspiration of our nation has been to expand freedom. But the expansion of freedom clearly is not inevitable. And it is clearly not something that just happens, not unless we defend our most fundamental principles. We have to defend our most fundamental principles, y'all. It is necessary if we want to continue to move forward.
Shout out to the Commissioner Solomon and Mix.
Peace.
Good,
What's good? Yeah, this is some heavy stuff, man. Right here, bro. This is some heavy stuff, and I'm I usually don't watch the regular news, but with this going on, I had to check out the regular news and see what exactly is going on with this overturning of the Roe versus Wade decision. Now, they always make this into a political thing. So a lot of the people, the basic people, I call them, the basic people, they go into political. It's like a political thing, a Democratic versus Republican thing for a lot of people, but when these type of decisions are made, that is a bigger thing going on, especially when you're dealing with, the right for abortion, because we know that the right for abortion, and the implementation of these abortion laws and how liberal it was initially from the outset for the last 40 some odd years was something that was being funded and controlled by the Population Council. And we know that the Population Council was started by eugenicists. A lot of people don't know the history, right? The Population Council, right, was started by John Foster Dulles, Frederick Osborne, and I think it was John D. Rockefeller, one of the Rockefellers, John D. Rockefeller or Rockefeller III. I think it was Rockefeller III.
It was one of the Rockefellers, though.
One of the Rockefellers.
You ain't got nothing you want to share, do you? A screen share on it.
Yeah. I could pull all that up too. Because really, I could really pull up my PowerPoint because all that is on PowerPoint that I did like 1,000,000 times already. But I never did it on Blue's channel. So yeah, I thank you for just rolling out the red carpet so I could put this PowerPoint up once again. I'm very proud of this PowerPoint. Yeah, because a lot of people don't know, right? And some people think that when I have conversations about these type of things, a lot of times I play dumb. I'm very sarcastic because I don't know. I don't want to have a conversation I don't want to, because I know what the conversation leads to, because when they come at me in a certain type of way, I already know what they know. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like, and then I don't want to get into a whole area because, like, it's like, you know, the iceberg theory with the water and you just dealing with the tip of the iceberg. It's a whole big ass block underneath of that shit that you're not even recognizing. And because of the big ass block that you're not recognizing, it's going to be hard to have a conversation with you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, oh yeah, well, I don't know now. Yeah, whatever, you know. Yeah. So people think this is like a political thing, you know, when it's really like, okay, when you see like the population, they literally tell you it's population control. So people, you know, from like Alex Jones and all that, oh, they trying to lower the population. No, they just controlling the population. You know what I'm saying? So right now in America, they want to now increase the white population. They want to increase the white population right now. So this Roe versus Wade is being turned back, and I'm gonna point some things out to y'all in a second. You know, and I want to do some more research. So what they had was Trump, and a lot of things, like, you know, with this whole thing with Trump, right? A lot of white people think that he's some type of maverick for the cause, but when you pull off the layers, even with Trump, even with the casinos, you know, he was going out of business with the casinos, and he was, you know, Rothschild supported, you know, Rothschild funded Donald Trump. So it's the same monsters once you pull the layers back, even with Trump. You know what I'm saying? So they make it like he's some maverick for the American cause when he's just the person, which is a great actor. He's a great actor. Remember, he was acting. Remember The Apprentice and all that shit? And yeah, he's a good actor. This whole shit is just some movie type of shit going on with this. So
a lot like Reagan. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like most of these Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like these are actors, bro. You know, and that sound like conspiracy theories and all that. But I break it down the whole time of you know, how these organizations are formed, the people that form these organizations, that controls the government, that even controls the election process. So that's what I want to see. I don't want to see, if you're giving me some electoral college bullshit, I ain't trying to hear it. I'm not trying to hear you talking about, you know, that shit. You know, I was listening to Steve Harvey, and they was talking about the overturning of the Roe versus Wade, and so, you know, they're more of a Democratic persuasion. So it was like, see, this is why we have to vote. This is why we have to get involved. And I'm thinking like, you getting involved is serving the purpose of the greater society. See, people like this shit is backwards, right? You getting involved is the problem. That's what they want you to do. They want you to be involved. They don't want, like, they promote this society where you know capitalism reigns supreme. You know, you get entrenched in the work because you're helping that. You pay tax dollars to further, you know, support what the government is doing. So they want you to be involved. They want you to get a job. They want you to do those. You know what I'm saying? They want you to do all those things. So people make it like that's the fight. The fight is to take advantage of what the system has to offer. This is what people make it appear as if that's what they're fighting for. That's not the fight, really. The fight actually is destroying the system. That's the real fight, because the system is designed to create haves and have-nots. It's designed that way. And you have overconsumption in some nations, and then you have mass poverty in other nations, hyperinflation, and you got, these are everything. All these things are done systematically, So when you're talking about, these entities, like, the United Nations and, the Trilateral Commission and the Bilderberg Group and, the Council on Foreign Relations. The Council on Foreign Relations advises the United States government. Like Hillary Clinton was on record saying that, the guys over us, the big wigs, you don't know their names. You don't know who they are. Now, you got, in terms of the organization, you got a lot of people that be involved in these organizations, but the people that's controlling the organizations, read about the Club of Rome. And that's when you get into the population control aspect of what they're trying to do. Okay, so when you're talking about the population council, you're talking about these individuals, I think it's the Club of Rome. I think it was David Rockefeller. It was Frederick Osborne, and it was John Foster Dulles. These are the people that created the population council. Now, when you do research on them, John Foster Dulles, he was they had a law office, Allen Dulles and John Foster Dulles, because the Dulles brothers, one of them was Secretary of State and one of them was head of the CIA. Right after the Civil War, I think it was Eisenhower, one of those presidents, under one of those administrations. I think it was one of those presidents. But he was the first head of the CIA. I think it was Allen Dulles, and John Foster Dulles was Secretary of State. But before that, going into World War II, they were playing both sides of the war. John Foster Dulles was a supporter. There was Nazi supporters. They had a law office over there where they was helping laundering weapons and money to the Nazis. And we know what the Nazis stood on far as when you talk about eugenics and population control and the stuff that they was discovering from experimentation on the Jews, during the Holocaust. John D. Rockefeller III, Nazi supporter. He helped fund the Kaiser Wilhelm Institutes in Germany. It was Percy Rockefeller that was connected to this smuggling of weapons to the Nazis. The building up of the SS. A lot of people don't know, and I say this all the time, that the SS was a privately owned military. That was not the government. That wasn't the government, really. The chancellor, because remember, they say Adolf Hitler was the chancellor initially of Germany before they actually took it over. The chancellor is just a military leader. That wasn't like similar to like the president. The chancellor just is the military leader. So he came with the army and forced his way into the political spectrum, you know? So what does that mean? It was a standing army already in Germany. Adolf Hitler, with a privately funded army, seized power of what eventually became Nazi Germany. That's what happened. A lot of people don't know that shit. Who funded this privately owned army? The Harrimans, John D. Rockefeller, the Carnegies. American philanthropists funded this this takeover. In fact, they tried to do it here in America. They attempted to do it here in America. They wanted a man by the name of Smedley Butler to do the same thing like what Adolf Hitler was doing in Germany here in America. But Smedley Butler blew the whistle on the whole operation. And I think it was Truman. One of them, I get them all mixed up, all them crackers mixed up. I think it was whoever was president. He couldn't really do nothing because these people were in positions of not only financial authority, but obviously political authority. And so he just swept it under the rug. They tried to clean some things up with the Nuremberg trials, but at the same time, Operation Paperclip is like, we grabbing some of those scientists from Germany to see what they actually discovered from all this experimentation.
That was like the MK Ultra stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah, that would lead it to the MK Ultra stuff and the LSD and the mind control experimentation and the studying of the mind and all the stuff that was going on in the 1950s. It said the foundation. The foundation was based off of all the stuff that they discovered in the Second World War. Now, the third founder of the Population Council. So we got already these two people were Nazi supporters. These are the people that founded the Population Council. The Population Council are the ones that create all these contraceptives that women use today. So the people that were supporting the Nazis, think about this shit. The people that were supporting Nazis, right, and eugenics are now giving you contraceptives. Okay. If that's not a red flag, I don't know what the fuck is. If that's not a red flag, I don't know what the fuck is a red flag. Oh, so these people that were eugenicists all of a sudden decided to corner the market on ways of preventing birth. Cool.
And that's after mastering our DNA, our genetics and shit.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? This whole idea with the spirit race and all that shit. So Frederick Osborn, right? He was the head of the Eugenics Society. He was head of the Eugenics Society after the fall of Nazi Germany. Now, he was the one that actually began to do all the cosmetic changes within the American Eugenics Society. What I mean when I say cosmetic changes, he was the one that was changing the word eugenics into genetics. So when you hear today, like, well, the geneticists, yeah, that's just a new word for eugenicists. Because remember, it's really common sense. A geneticist is a person that studies the DNA makeup, which make humans, have the different phenotypes and the features that they have. That's what genetics are. You know what I'm saying? A eugenicist had a more racial element to that very same science. Now, this is one thing that they found out that they had to change. This idea of the white superior race, they had to re-evaluate because a lot of the stuff was proven that to be incorrect. So that's the thing that they had to reevaluate. But all the other stuff, like, how we're going to control the population and, the stuff that we're going to do to the third world nations and all that. No, they still got that going on, baby. Don't make no bones about it. So, okay, let's stop right there. Population Council, found by eugenicists and supporters of Nazi Germany. Ooh, take that, put it on the side real quick. Okay. So, a lot of people talk about Margaret Sanger. Margaret Sanger receiving funding from the Rockefellers, right? A lot of money she received from the Rockefellers. She started this Planned Parenthood Federation of America. She was on record saying that she wanted to direct this to the blacks and not to let them know that our agenda is to lower their population. But this is the foundation of what we're talking about, which will eventually lead to the Roe versus Wade, this right, because now she's coming in as a feminist. Margaret Sanger is coming in as a feminist, and she's coming in saying that the woman has a right to choose. This is what she's coming in. This is the rhetoric that she's using. All the while she's being funded. All the while she's being associated with people that are eugenicists that want to lower the population of the black community in America and the third world nations, second and third world nations globally. This is what they want to do. So she's being funded by the Rockefellers. The people that she's getting to support her organization are members of the Eugenics Society. So like 15 members that was in the Eugenics Society were also in Planned Parenthood. So, okay, she's fucking with them, right? You think that their ideology, somehow changed? Like, what do you think is going on right here? That, okay, when they go over to, Planned Parenthood, that they're just for women's rights. And then when they go over to the eugenics, we're going to lower the population. Like, no, all that was a package deal. And a lot of people don't want to admit to that. That all was a package deal. Remember Frederick Osborne, he was doing a lot of cosmetic changes. So you got two forms of eugenics. You got positive and negative eugenics. Positive eugenics, obviously, is to promote the birth of the people who they deemed to be genetically fit, and the lowering of the populations that they deem to be unfit will be the negative eugenics. Margaret Sanger wanted to focus in on negative eugenics, like lowering the populations of those who she deemed to be unfit, and that all had racial elements to it. So I wanted to lay that as a foundation, because when you're talking about the Roe versus Wade decision, and and when you talk about the implementation of from contraceptive use to abortion, you can see that it was a lot of funding, government funding, that placed abortion clinics strategically in minority communities. And this is research that's already done. You have more abortion clinics in minority communities than you have in any other community. So, especially in the Black communities, more abortion clinics. So, okay, they passed the laws. She's connecting with eugenics, population council that's creating these contraceptives, connected to eugenics. Okay, cool. Their idea was to lower the population of Black people in America. All right, cool. Okay, now they're putting abortion clinics in the Black community, focusing in on the Black community. So now let's go to this Roe versus Wade decision and the overturning of it, right? Because there's a lot of political things that's going on with this. Now, it's not like abortion is totally eliminated, right? Totally eliminated in America. No, they made this into a political thing, which is very interesting. Because when you look at certain areas, right? And I could pull the chart up. I'm gonna pull the chart up real quick because that's the first thing that I did. Because I looked at a couple. I'm so like, you know what I mean? I could see through the bullshit. It's almost like I got, you know, the motherfucking They Live glasses on. Which are these motherfuckers? I looked at two, like, you know what I mean, of the NBC, you know, the news clips, and I'm like, okay. They made this into a political thing, Democratic and Republican, and then, you know, Donald Trump, you know, he's the guy, you know, he's like the maverick guy that put these judges, these 3 U.S. Supreme Court judges in that actually help overturn this decision. You know what I'm saying? So he done did this, and now he stepped back for a minute. Still got the influence, though. He may try to run again. You know, this is all that was floating around, right? So when you look at the map, they got it. It was a map that popped up. That was a color-coded map, right?
You sharing it?
Hold on, I gotta grab it first.
Oh, okay.
Grab this joint first. This color-coded map, right? This color-coded map is showing, you know, they got the trigger states. Now, trigger state, as soon as they overturn the Roe versus Wade, reverse it, that they're going right into it. Like, this is illegal. You can't do it here no more, right? And then everything else trickles down from there, right? So, obviously, they tie this into, like, you know, political ties, and they make this into a whole thing that's, you know, political pretty much, you know. So let me see if I could pull this joint up real quick. Abortion map.
I bet it follows almost the same path when we look at like the redlining map, like the desirable, you know what I'm saying, the undesirables, the what I mean, like the decline in the what was it? Definitely declining. It was I think it was like can be restored or something like that. And then hazardous, and
Right.
you know, like then they had like the upscale areas and shit.
So check this out, Blue. Hold on. Y'all see the map?
Got it. Yep.
Okay, so the dark red obviously is banned or mostly banned. This is what did. So you got the dark ones, the really dark ones is like, okay. So they had to cover that Texas, and I'm not good with these states, but you can see the areas. You're talking about inner America, what they call like the nation's heartland. These are the areas. And then the uncertain areas, those would be like the swing states, like Pennsylvania, you know, I think that's Virginia, that's North Carolina right there. And then most likely to remain, Florida is also a swing joint. So most likely to remain, California, you know, the West Coast, and then that northeastern seaboard right there, boom, like the New York, you know, Maryland, Jersey, pretty much where black people are in mass, right? Now, some may argue, okay, what about the South? Man, we now know that like Texas, areas like Texas and Louisiana, yeah, it's a good population of black people down there, but their political views and the white society and how conservative they are down there. Whites are still the majority. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So when you looking at the map now, for the most part, the heavily populated areas of Democratic black people, they could still get abortions. They still gonna be able to get abortions. Now, you got these swing states. So Pennsylvania is a swing state. But see, I live in Philadelphia, right? Philadelphia is a heavily black populated area, right? We live right on the border of New Jersey. So even if they was to change that, people still will be able to get it. But they just go right across the bridge. That's only like maybe a 25-minute drive. You know what I'm saying? You could still go over right over the bridge to Jersey and get the abortion. So
Right.
now, so all these heavily populated black areas, right? They still could get abortions. So black people going to still get abortions. Now, when you look at this, for example, the thing would be, you got to see where these swing states are going to do, right? Because when you're looking at Texas, right, and I forget this right above Texas. I wish they had at least the initials on this motherfucker. But like those swing states are key, because if South Carolina and Virginia, if they swing towards the ban, you don't know. Like with Virginia, you really don't know. You really don't know with Carolina. You really don't know. So it depends where they swing at, which would shut the whole thing down. You know what I'm saying? Because Pennsylvania actually voted for Trump. They actually won.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you don't know where the swing states are going to do. So that's kind of like up in the air. And then that would kind of paint the picture a little more vividly. But for the most part, in these heavily populated black areas, they still gonna be tripping about no abortion. It's really not gonna affect them all like that. Now, you got different areas. Obviously, black people live everywhere, but we talking about mass. And I guarantee you, and this is just me quickly glancing at, when you look at the rate of abortion per state, I guarantee you're gonna see a connection with this shit. You talk about California. You talk about New York City. You're talking about Jersey, and those Baltimore and DC and those areas. Oh no, yeah, they gonna still be able to get abortions. Who is gonna be making it hard for that? The nation's heartland. Those people in that middle America. The nation's heartland, that the majority white areas, heavily white populated areas, where there's a very low amount of African Americans. Now, I would say, right? That's why I don't really deal with the political thing, shit, the bullshit. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I don't deal with the political, because all that gets you caught into these ties. Oh yeah, well, Democratic. No. They still about. It's a book called The Negro Problem in Modern Democracy. This was research done by the Carnegie Institute in the 1940s. And what they did was they went around to white people, whether they was in the upper middle class, poor whites. They went all across the spectrum, and they was asking them, with this growing population of black people, because this was done in like 1944. This is going into that baby boomer era, so they seen that this was a potential, growth in the black population, and it was like, what should we do about this growing black population? So they all agreed that effort should be made to lower the population.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that they disagreed on was how to do it. Some people had a little more radical stance. Other people wanted to do it, more slowly, a little slow, incremental process of lowering the Black population. So in the 1940s, in this book, and I could find the book for you. I still had the book. Abortion was being thrown on the table in the 1940s. In this book, contraceptive use was being thrown on the table in the 1940s. This is what they was already planning to do. So they project. So using that logic, you can see that, this 40 years of, how maverick it was when they first created this Roe versus Wade and how quick the decision was. I was talking to Psychopatheist earlier today, and he was talking about, he had a different angle on this whole thing. And he was talking about the Roe versus Wade decision, and what actually pushed it was the white woman saying that, she was raped by a black man, and that's how she got pregnant. And then according to him, he was saying that they found out that wasn't true eventually, that she made that shit up. So
right. So the whole case is built on a faulty premise.
Yeah. How fast they threw that into, legislation, and how quickly this thing was like, made law. When you see those things happen, you could clearly see that it's an agenda. Just the same thing with this COVID shit. You know what I'm saying? But like, how quickly it's pushed and how fast they moving with it shows that, oh, what the fuck is going on? They really, you know what I mean? And this decision, how fast it, you know what I'm saying? It blitzed us just now. What's going on? Just a year ago, what was the big thing? You know what I'm saying? This, you know what I mean?
Right.
Corona thing, and like, you know what I'm saying? It was just like, what's going on? Y'all motherfuckers is just somewhere else right now. You know what I mean? Focus. Look at what's going on, bro. So, okay, so now we have when we put out this map, for the most part, you know what I'm saying? The argument, like I said, could be made with some southern states, but we know how the Southerners move, and those Southerners are heavily evangelical, Christian, white, conservatives, right? It's still a large population of those people down there, right? So, but when you're talking about the East and the West Coast, they still could get abortions. So what you think is going to happen? Like, when this thing begins to, once this thing is implemented, obviously they passed the law already. And once we see those swing states, decide on what they're going to do, right? What you're going to see is Black people having more access to abortions than white folks. That's what you're going to see. Black people having more access to abortion than white folks. So now let's stop right there and go back to the population council. That's why I brought it up in the first place. That's why I brought it up in the beginning. I just told you about the book, The Negro Problem in Modern Democracy, right? That was research done by the Carnegie Institute. Carnegie's also help fund eugenics, population control. They also help fund Nazi Germany. Carnegie's. So you read about the Carnegies, Harrimans, Rockefellers. You're talking about eugenicists. And we could go even deeper with the Kellogg's and, those other families, we could go deeper with it because there's a lot more families. But so understanding all this, now you begin to see a more clearer picture when you're looking at this overturn of the Roe versus Wade. Maybe that was the agenda from the beginning. Let's just put it over the country at first and then let this like 40 years rock out. And then we could just take it back and make this into a political thing. You got to think like that, bro. let's make this into a Democratic Republican thing. We know. So once you made a decision to just be Democrat, and I don't really give a fuck about the Democratic Republican shit, really, but just from a standpoint of them knowing, like, okay, we know black people are over here, so they could design shit like the way they doing now and shit, because that would be a long political lines. Oh no, this is not really dealing with race. This is more of a political thing. But we know black people for the most part in mass, vote this way. So you know what I'm saying. Hold on one second.
Yeah, and I like, just to kind of add into that, when we like, to me, what happens is that we get caught up in the game, right? And so it's like, I think, like, sometimes when we look at like basketball and different things, we look at them as plays, and you know what I'm saying. And I think the way it's kind of explained by some people is like, if you watching the ball, you busy watching the ball, you so distracted with the ball that you don't really see the play that's happening. Like, you don't see dude just obviously letting somebody go behind him and all of that. And so it's kind of like the Magic in general, where they pretend like the fight, right? And in order for you to fight and not look like you giving up, then you have to play by the rules of their game. And that's just not how we gonna win. And that's why I say constantly, we have to be revolutionizing the way that war is fought. None of these things were the rules until they became the rules. Like, this way of thinking wasn't the standard until it became the standard. And so you can't think like you're gonna be able to kind of out, you know what I'm saying? Like, this ain't fighting, right? This ain't how you fight. This is how you play the game and continue to, like, to fall into the same holes or the same traps that we fall in. I say this over and over again. The further that we go into the system, the further apart we get pulled. We can see it on a constant level. Like, when you look at the togetherness from like the 60s and then the 70s, it's not the same. And then it's a major drop off in the 80s. And then the 90s and the 2000s, you could pretty much say it's like that collectiveness, like that willing to sacrifice for each other, like, that's like dwindled. It's hard to really envision it now. And part of it is because the illusion of the game makes everybody into basically individuals that look at each other like, well, if I could do it, why you can't? That kind of brings, and that's like what makes that so vital, is that the story, and that's why I say we kind of have to be careful how we tell the story, because we end up constantly blaming the victims in the story for how it's playing out, or how it has played out. I think, do we need to become action, like, and start taking action and things? Yeah, definitely. But I think it's a fine line between that and then blaming the victim, because in a lot of ways, like, we talk about, our interaction with the government, but the problems that we had were caused by the government. Our problems, the split financially, the gaps that we talk about economically, the gaps that we talk about in the abortion rates, and that's based on poverty. The gaps that we see in education, the gaps that we see in the pregnancy deaths and different things like that. All of these things, it like only get worse. Especially you talking about from the time in the 60s. They've only gotten worse, and all of them are caused by the government. There's no one else that you can even, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's, I think, like today, the way that we, like, sometimes when we have like financial discussions and stuff like that, a lot of times the way that it's had is as if, like, and I'm not saying that we don't necessarily know more than what people did back then, but I think it's an issue when we kind of look at it as if like they, like, it's almost like they just weren't smart enough, you know, and they weren't smart enough economically, they weren't smart enough politically, like they didn't know, you know, the proper terms. And if they did it like we almost speak about it as if we got all the answers right now, and from their situation, you know, um they were just politically ignorant, they were just financially, you know, financially ignorant, all of that. I think in general, and you can jump back in whenever you know you back in the mix. So I'm just holding it down. Um, I think in general though, we gotta kind of look at how like different policies was made up, how wealth was distributed in this country, and how wealth is distributed in general. And I think the more that we kind of understand that, I think the closer that we kind of get to understanding that it's a, like, the problem is clear. The what would have to be done, like politically, in order to change our situation is it's just too, it's too crazy to even ask, right? Like, we need everything around us to stop. Not only do we need like aid and all of that, because the same things that they did to build up the middle class, we would need that. Now, that same funding and the money that you spend and all of that, and just magically making certain places valuable and certain places, you know, hazardous or whatnot or undesirable, all of that, that happened with just a stroke of a pen. And now, because of the way, like, that stuff, that weight still carries over from there. And so it's at the point where their property still holds more value and ours is still not desirable. Changing that means like literally, and like I said, that just depends on what type of discussion we have. The close the gap discussion, so that's not happening. It's not happening. Our only option is flipping the table. But like I said, it gets. I think when we have like these type of discussions, especially like with Solar getting into how, you know, how deep the well actually runs, I think people kind of look at it as if the discussion is being had from like a defeated standpoint. But no, it's just like letting you, like, this should just make you feel more inspired to like change the rule, to reinvent the wheel. I think like the key point and most of the discussions is just that we gonna have to do it different. We're gonna have to do it different. Not only does the foundation of how we do it have to be different from them and from what it was in the past, but like our technology, all of that, it has to be different.
Yeah.
What's good? What's good?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm looking at, you know, this whole thing, and I'm seeing like, you know, a pattern, you know. And like I said, if I was to dig a little deeper, it'll become more clear as to what, you know, is obvious to me. But people call me a conspiracy theorist, and they think I'm, I will fall into that category. So, but what I like to do is I like to, present information to connect the dots. I'm not your typical conspiracy theorist, when I show you, I'm not only just saying population control, I'm telling you how it started. I'm giving you the names of the people and the organizations that they were part of and the agenda of the particular organization to lower the population and, control the population. It's like, so it's not really a conspiracy theory when you can prove it. I think when you get into the conspiracy theory, remember, the term conspiracy theory in itself is suspect. The term in itself came from the JFK bullet trajectory theory. Like the people that wasn't buying that it was one bullet that went all through JFK head, and you know what I'm saying? The people that wasn't buying that, they called them conspiracy theorists. That's where the term was first used. So a conspiracy, the term in itself was used as a tool to paint the people that you're not gonna piss on me until it's raining. You know what I'm saying? Tell me it's raining. When they was pointing out that this is impossible, they called them a conspiracy theorist. So the term in itself is suspect, but this is what they use now. Since it worked, I guess, with the JFK thing, you know what I mean? And they just run with it now. So they continue to do these things and they continue to run with this. And but when you're looking at this whole thing, once you take all of the matrix shit out the way, this Democratic Republican shit and this whole thing and Donald Trump over here and Biden and you could clearly see when you're looking at that map, for the most part, Black people going to have access to abortion. So what that's going to do is that's going to begin to well, it's not going to really change because already with that being said, that's why I was talking about, how the abortion clinics, right after the Roe versus Wade, and once they was able to implement abortion and make it legal, that, these abortion clinics were strategically put into the Black community. And you see more abortion clinics in areas of the Black community than white communities, because based off a percentage, obviously, but they are strategically Black people have more easier access to these institutions. So me and Iman Bashir back in 2011, 2012 was doing a documentary. We was getting footages. We was going into these abortion clinics. We was going into Planned Parenthood and going into these areas. And we was and Brother D, shout out to Brother D. We was going into the joints with the camera on. Like, we'll just walk into the joint and then ask some questions until they kick us out, right? So we went into one of the abortion clinics. We went into one of the what we thought was an abortion clinic, because the way they designed it, not an abortion clinic, but they have these facilities where they consult, like a person that's thinking about getting an abortion. They have people areas you could go to consult with a person that let you know, like, yeah, it'll be a smooth process, and they kind of like making you comfortable with the whole procedure before you actually get it. So we thought we was going into one of those facilities, but it actually was a facility that some radical whites made to talk you out of getting an abortion. So when we went in there, we coming in there like, with the cameras and all that, and she just went through the whole process. It's like, yo, no, really, we are here to talk people out of getting abortions. So we began to still interview her, like, well, why are you doing this? Because she actually named it it was a name that they had that was similar to the name of the commonly known facility that a lot of people go to, but it was like a play on it. Like, you know how they spell a cake with a K type shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
forgot the name.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I forgot the name, but that's what it really was. And so yeah, she was like, you know, then she went into, it was good for the documentary because she went into like the effects of the abortion and how it has an impact on a woman's body. She had like little photos that she had and everything. So it was a good thing that we even ran up in there. But she put us on to these different to the actual clinics, the actual facilities. Like, yeah, she had like, you know, and I think we was in we was in the Bronx. We was doing it in the Bronx at this time with Iman Bashir. And so we started hitting up the facilities, walking into the actual clinics and with the camera and like, you know, so recording the thing, you know what I mean? Because yeah, so we seen, and that's what she was saying, you know, the reason why I brought it up. She was saying that when you look at it, you know, these areas are strategically put into minority communities. So you have more abortion clinics in minority communities, you know. So what you're seeing now with the overturning of the Roe versus Wade, they're not getting rid of abortion. Only in certain states they are. So I was just watching today on MSNBC. It was a guy, I think he was in Iowa, one of the states that even despite of it being overturned, that they was going to overlook it pretty much. And he's saying that, well, since my particular state is between two states, well, like in the area of 4 states, I believe, that most likely is going to make it illegal. What you're going to have is a whole bunch of people coming into this particular state to, you know, get abortions. And he made it into, you know, the women's rights issue. Like, yeah, we're going to welcome them, you know, we're going to welcome them into the state, you know, to get these abortions. So what you seeing right now is, with all that being said, that it's going to be easier for Black people to still get abortions. No different than, you know, no different than, you know, having those abortion clinics strategically put into the Black communities. But even with this being changed, it really is not going to have an impact on a lot of the Black community. Like I said, I'll just word it that way. On a lot of the Black population in America, a great portion of the Black population is not going to really affect them that much. Now, we already know statistically that at a point in time, I don't know, because I haven't looked at recent statistics, but you know that Black women got abortions at a higher percentage than any other race of women in America. So we may see that, you know, even go even further to almost probably doubling, you know, with this Roe versus Wade decision. And but, you know, and I don't get into the whole thing, you know, the political aspect of it, because it's a whole political arguments of why we should get why should abortions be legal and the women's right to choose, and it's their body. And, you know, in the case of the incest and a rape victim, and, you know, these are all the political talking points. Some of them I believe is valid, you know. I don't really deal with that. And the reason why I don't deal with that is because I'm looking at the people that actually funded and began to push this. And I know what they are doing it, why they are doing it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because everything, all those talking points was something that was given to you. You know what I'm saying? This was given to the American population at a point in time. Those arguments about, oh, what if a woman was raped, and what if, you know, okay, you don't have to, like, so you mean to tell me that we're not smart enough to see that, okay, no different than you know, yeah, if a person get hit by a car, they need medical help. Like, you don't have to like literally pass a law, you know what I mean, for that. Okay, in that situation, you can have facilities that can you know, go through the process of abortion, but they're legalizing abortion. Think about this. Legalizing abortion as opposed of having a law that say, well, okay, yeah, if you're raped or if it's a form of incest, you know, that occurred or whatever, that okay, you can abort the child. Or if it's a situation, that is gonna, you know, affect the life of the mother, she would have the right to choose in that situation. But that's not what they did. They used those arguments to say that, well, every woman have a right to choose, even the one that just was fucking and got it pregnant, and just say, you know what, I don't want the baby all of a sudden, which is the majority of the cases. The overwhelming majority of the cases is that situation. You know, just, you know, person having casual sex and got pregnant. It ain't like, you know, 90% of the women, you know, that are getting abortions is because they were raped or the molestation or had some type of, no. Over 90% of the abortions are being done by women who's having casual sex. But that's not what the media tell you. The media pushes this idea of, you know, they use these as the talking points when it's not really what the masses are doing. So that's why I don't really deal with the political shit. That's why I really don't deal with it, because, you know, the talking points and, you know, the back and forth and all that type of stuff, that's all mind control shit that I don't entertain. I don't really entertain that shit. You know, because I know who created these organizations. I don't know why they created the organizations. I know who's funding it. I know why it's a hot topic in the media. I know why it was pushed, you know, and so that's kind of what I deal with it on that level. That's why I deal with it from that level. And that's why the picture is clearer for me when I look and I see. And, you know, and this is me just basing it off of, you know, what I'm seeing right now when they're making this into a political argument. And when you're looking at these states, that's going to keep abortion no matter what, despite of what America said. You know, they put it in the hands of the state. Oh yeah, let's put it into the hands of the state. And when you're dealing with the state, okay, now they could pinpoint certain populations of people, and they could now look at, you know, okay, you know, where the majority of the black people at, where the majority of people that we want to lower. You know what I'm saying? Okay, here, boom, boom, boom. That's what it is. That's what I see. You know what I mean? So yes, I believe in certain situations that a woman should have a right to choose. You know, but like I said, Margaret Sanger, when she was creating the Planned Parenthood Federation of America, and when she was doing all these things, when she was associated with other eugenic organizations, and when she's being funded by people who were eugenicists, she's a eugenicist herself, you know, but people argue that point. So it was like, okay, that's not what she wanted to do. Like what she clearly said. Word can't get out that we want to lower the Negro population. We can make it easier for them by, you know, swaying the preachers, the leaders of the black community, swaying them to convince the black population that, you know, contraceptive use and abortion is cool. This is what she said. But we don't really worry about that, though. We overlook that type of stuff. And it's because of that we kind of remain victims of the mind control media. So when you don't have that historical reference, then you're going to fall victim to whatever they're telling you in the media for the here and now, because you don't really know where these organizations came from, who started these organizations, why they're doing what they're doing. You don't know none of that. All you hear is women's right to choose. All you hear is, oh yeah, these white conservatives, these evangelical Christians are trying to prevent our liberties, and that's what you hear. So that's what you get caught up in when it's a much bigger thing going on.
Right, you really only getting like both sides of the story is like two of the most extreme. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that was like almost like the whole ordeal. I think we was talking about like the gender war and things, and why we couldn't really have that discussion, because it's like both sides is just using like the most extreme, you know what I'm saying, stories in order to like get their political point across. And it's like, come on, y'all. You know what I'm saying? In order for us to like meet somewhere, we can't have it where both sides, and that's how you know it's like it's magic behind it, because what they're doing is like they're using like they're using like they talking points in a way, and the rhetoric in a way to kind of trigger people. You know what I mean? And get a reaction out of people more so than to actually educate them on what the problem is and why they should be voting this way or that way. Yeah, it's almost like, you know what I'm saying? It's always that extreme though,
Right.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
So,
just wild.
so you have now they incentivize now for women that abortion up until this point is an option. You know what I'm saying? Because statistics show that if a female has a child, in high school, where she will fall on a social economic bracket, like where she would be, it's like statistics they actually show. They do research on, that if you have a kid, before you 18, this is where you're most likely going to be on a socioeconomic.
Right.
And now if a woman has a kid while she's in her early 20s, this is where she's going to most likely be. Now, a woman that has a kid after graduating college, she will be here. So as the woman become more educated, her chances of a better lifestyle is more likely to happen, if she don't have children, up until that point. So this is the foundation of the phenomenon that prompted Steve Harvey to write the book, Think Like a Man, right? Because you had a lot of these successful Black women that, they achieved their doctor's degrees, and they have these high level jobs, and very successful, very educated women. And they were looking for a husband that could meet them on their level. And it was very hard to find. And what became an issue was the fact that their biological clock was ticking, that, they wanted to have children, and they understood that the way the system incentivizes, the more educated woman of a better lifestyle, as long as you're not having children, like how that is incentivized in this capitalist society, that they were able to make it to this point where they were satisfied with their career. But now they run into another problem. And the other problem is that their biological clock is ticking, and they're trying to find a man on their level. So that became an issue for a certain segment of Black women that were very successful and that was able to overcome the pitfalls that was designed. You know what I mean? Because I know this for a fact, because in certain areas in Europe, right, since they had such a low population, it's incentivized for them to have more children. What does that mean? That a pregnant woman gets vouchers just because she's pregnant in certain areas in Europe. that just because she got pregnant, they will give her money.
Right.
So they incentivize having more children because of their situation. So in America, it's incentivized to have less children. Okay, so now that we understand that, let's now go to, once again, the access to just in case you slip up, just in case you make a little mistake. You know, okay,
Mm-hmm.
we have this abortion clinic over here that you could go to, just in case you slip up, because everybody has a biological necessity. Because it ain't like those educated women wasn't fucking; they just ain't get pregnant and had a baby. So, when you're talking about this high abortion rate that just blew out of proportion, and how they began to push the envelope, because remember when they first had the abortion, you know, okay, it was like trimesters that initially was okay. Once I get to this point, you can't have the abortion,
Right.
but then they began to push it further and further. Okay, no longer a fetus. You can actually abort a baby. You know, like, you know what I'm saying, a little baby in there. Like you can see it's a human baby. You're pulling out the legs and the head. So it got to that point. You know what I'm saying? They pushed the envelope. You know what I'm saying? The envelope was pushed to further this whole thing. Like, okay, she's still on the fence. Okay, she could wait about 5-6 months. You know, okay, she don't want to have it. Okay, we got facilities that could actually, you know, do this procedure. So the envelope was pushed, and you see that as a result, you see that you had this growing population, and they begin to do documentaries. You begin to see billboards, you know. And this is the political aspect of what we're talking about. Of you begin to see billboards like the most dangerous place of the black child is in the mother's womb. This is what you said. I'm pretty sure everybody's seen one of those billboards, and then they throw out the statistics of that more black babies was killed, and the number one killer of black people is through abortion. And all these statistics they begin to throw out there. You know what I'm saying? And you begin to see the result of what they incentivized from a social aspect, and then what was being done politically, and how they did it using the women's right to choose, and they integrated that into a pro-democratic stance that they was taking. So these are the elements. So when somebody comes at me and talks specifically on political lines, that's just one tentacle of the overall agenda. The political aspect of what, you know, this abortion Roe versus Wade decision was predicated around is this is how they made it accessible, or this is how they got the population to accept what was going on. This is how they got the population to accept it, because they made it and they integrated it into issues that affected our everyday lives. Women's right to choose. We want the women, because remember the first wave, get the women into the working world. That was like the first wave of feminism. And then you had the second wave. That's when you know, this thing is getting a little, you know, crazy, because now, they throwing other stuff in there now. You know what I'm saying? Remember I did the documentary. I mean, not the documentary, but the presentation. I showed like the lesbian sex mafia and all that. And
oh yeah,
you know, that still got all crazy. So that's how they make it socially acceptable. That's just one tentacle on the octopus. Some people don't get past that one tentacle. Some people deal specifically with the political talking points. The political talking points are just designed to make it acceptable to the population that they're implementing these laws, because there's a lot of other tentacles that is playing a role. So, okay, another tentacle, once again, is incentivizing it socially. Okay, yeah. a person that has less children is most likely that has less children and focus on education is most likely to have a better lifestyle than a person that has children with less education, right? So that's another tentacle. Okay, we incentivize have less children. We make this into a women's rights issue. We make this into a political issue with Democratic and conservative Republicans. And so while all that mess is going on, you got the head of the octopus sitting there. That will be the population council. That will be the people that are creating the contraceptives. That will be the eugenicists that actually designed this whole thing from the outset to make it more acceptable for the population to actually get this thing in the first place. You know, now when you read the writings of Frederick Osborne, his main goal was to make it acceptable to the population that we can't force them to get this. Let's use propaganda. This is the term that he used when you're reading his writings. Let's use propaganda to make this more acceptable to the masses. And that's all that what you're seeing that is. It's just forms of propaganda to actually that's being incentivized. So this is a way of life now. This is like a culture now. You know what I'm saying? Motherfuckers even put this shit in songs, you know. So entrenched in the culture, you know. You got the pill, you took the shot, you got the condom.
Yeah.
Okay, you got pregnant, get the abortion. You know, these are the, you know.
And the standard.
Yeah, so this become normalized. So it's layers to the whole thing. So that's, once again, while I understand that. So I don't have conversations about that part. Because with the one tentacle, I don't have one tentacle conversation. But when you're dealing with this. So now Donald Trump. Like the Supreme Court judges, 3, that now has sway, along with Clarence Thomas, you know, because Clarence Thomas, if you notice, right, he said after this he want to focus on the gay rights bill. He said that he wanted to then focus now on the LGBT and like those rights now that was given to those people. Now he wants to now challenge that afterwards. So and it was something else that he brought up as well that was along the lines of perspectives that's dominated by people of the Democratic perspective. So yeah, this thing is you know, it's gonna get crazy. It's gonna get crazy. So you just sit back and watch. Yeah,
Nah,
we
can drink water.
Yeah, it's definitely
Water because my are too clean.
yes, man. Yeah, they definitely
Yes.
do. You know,
Yes.
and that's why I say, man, at some
Can-
point we gotta kind of see when it's WWE.
Daddy,
for whatever.
Daddy,
Like,
the chips are I think the chips are in my car. The chips.
yeah, man, they definitely.
So yeah. And they talk about like, you know, I could do a little bit of the you know, my favorite PowerPoint presentation that Blue is going to allow me to present. That's some motherfuckers that, I mean, y'all should be tired of this motherfucker. Like, nigga, you gonna do that again, nigga? You know what I'm saying? That same fucking PowerPoint that your guy did sitting there, nigga. You ain't doing more research on shit. I'm gonna add the shit that we just looking about this Roe versus Wade to this PowerPoint right here because it's all connected. But you know, look at the funding, look at the, you know, the organizations, look at the institutions. You know what I'm saying? You know, something that I point out when I was talking about um the what was that what I was talking about? Oh yeah, you talking about the, you know, the Corona beer and all that type of stuff. And then I was I transitioned it into you know, population control and what they were doing with the actual foods that we were eating and how they put certain things into the food that we eat. And then the people that is funding, the Bill Gates and all those people that is actually funding, you know, the Corona beer, they are actually people that wants to control the consumption population, the food that we're eating. And, you know, he's one of the biggest private owners of farmland, you know, Bill Gates. You know, so in America, you know, he controls a great portion of the farmland that, and he's also wanting to create, you know, this what they call it, the impossible food or something like that. What they call that shit? The
Yeah,
impossible.
the impossible.
Yeah,
Impossible.
like yeah,
Whatever
it
it
tastes
is.
like meat, but it's not really meat type of stuff. And like he's doing all this stuff, and like, you know, all this stuff is connected, you know what I'm saying? Once you connect the dots of you know, from what we're being fed now to, you know, what they're trying to do as far as with the, you know, the population, and you know, all this stuff is connected. So you can see that what Bill Gates was funding, he funds the institutions, he funds the actual implementation of the science, and then politically he gets involved with the countries that he wants to focus in on once they are able to master, you know, that particular science. You know, whether it's, you know, dealing with the genetics, you know, because you know, he was the one that actually wanted to you know, send, you know, these chickens into Africa. A lot of the African nations didn't want to take his chickens, but it was genetically modified, and he, you know, he had these institutions that actually studied the science on how to do it. And so he funded that over there. He was funding that over there. At the same time, he was involved in, you know, the creation of the Corona beer vaccination, and with that, he was able to flip the money that he invested into that. So he's making money the whole time, but he's controlling all these different aspects of what is needed to actually make it possible. And so it's
Yeah, that
because of
went
that.
into like what was that event 204 or something like that? 201
Yeah, event
that he
201.
did?
Yeah. You know, when they did the mock joint. Yeah. So, you know, they say that he's one of the richest individuals on the planet. But like Warren Buffett, you know, Warren Buffett donated most of his money now that he's old. He gave most of his money to Bill Gates. And once you follow this rat line, you see like the front man, because the people that you see is most likely is front men. Bill Gates is a front man. A lot of the money that he's given is used for the specific purpose of what he's doing. That's not his money. No different than that wasn't Warren Buffett's money. That's why now that he's not as active on dealing with those areas of, you know, population control and all the stuff that he was funding and supporting the third world nations and all that type of stuff he was doing, he gave that bulk of the money to Bill Gates, because now he's the new face of that. So, you know, that's the stuff that, you know, is going to slip through the cracks of people that don't have historical reference. You don't have a historical reference as to what the overall agenda is, then you're going to fall victim to the machinations of what is being told to you for the here and now. So, yeah, so so that's what you have going on. You know, that's what you have going on. So
Mm-hmm. And see, Like what you mentioned with like Warren Buffett, he got not only him but a bunch of other billionaires also to also sign off on giving him their money, and it's all under the illusion that basically they agreeing to donate their money to some greater cause. But
Yeah, it's
we already
philanthropy,
know what it is. Yeah, man.
and the non-governmental organizations, the NGOs,
Mhm.
non-governmental organizations, they get to implement things having to without having to go through the political process of because a lot of things that the government is a lot of things that will prevent certain things from being passed. That's what y'all could see in America, So I did this documentary like a million times already, and what I want to focus in on is you see this is like what conspiracy theories like drawn up, and I did this intentionally because what you see here, because you'll type in like New World Order and you'll see this round table and you'll see all this stuff right here, what you're seeing right here. And hold on, let me put it in a presentation mode. I'm saying I'm taking all day. I used to get mad at y'all because y'all be taking all day. I didn't see why. I'm trying to look to see.
You
Okay.
good.
Okay, so you can see it.
Yeah.
Bigger. Okay, so you see this little circle of conspiracy power. These elite organizations that controls the world. This is what they kind of like the picture that they paint. But these are actual organizations. Everybody knows that these are actual organizations. And what I did was I just simply looked and I simply did research on each of these organizations to find out how these organizations was created and for what purpose. And so when you're looking at these different organizations, you could see, from the Population Council, from the Council on Foreign Relations, the United Nations, that you have really pretty much the same group of people that are associated with each other to create these organizations, each dealing with a certain area of what their overall agenda is, as what you could see in the right beside or beneath or above, in the white print, they let you know what exactly the organization is designed to do. So the Trilateral Commission, really, it says America, Europe, and global, but really, the Trilateral Commission, I think Zygmunt Brzezinski was one of the founders, and Henry Kissinger. And we know Henry Kissinger was like, in the 1970s, he was like, in constant contact and communication with China. And so the Trilateral Organization is organization that really brought a lot of the Asian nations, particularly China, into this global agenda that they are trying to orchestrate. And it would be just another aspect of the Council on Foreign Relations. And so the Council on Foreign Relations, as what you can see, as it said on the side, the bodies like the U.S. Council on Foreign Relations is an offshoot of the Royal Institute of International Affairs. And once you read the philosophy and the agenda of the Royal Institute of International Affairs, you can see that their main objective was to create an Anglo-American, a pro-British global empire. So this would be the foundations of what they call the New World Order. Under this value system, obviously capitalism, and how Western nations construct their society. They want to implement this format globally, and they want to control it. So this is what developed from the Royal Institute of International Affairs, and that goes back to this man Cecil Rhodes. he wrote some wills, to actually create a secret society that was, designed for, British rule across the planet. This is what he was saying, literally in his wills, right here. The establishment, promotion, and development of a secret society, true aim and objective whereof shall be the extension of British rule throughout the world. So that's the agenda. That's the agenda. So you're talking about white supremacy. You're talking about, it's a book that's written by Carol Quigley, Anglo-American Establishment. That's kind of really what it was, It's always different elements and different things they have to fight through, but ultimately, when you're looking at the development of these organizations, they would be the founders of the Royal Institute of International Affairs. American branch of that will be the Council on Foreign Relations. So the American, the Council on Foreign Relations is the American branch of the Royal Institute of International Affairs. Why was that designed? It was designed for British rule throughout the world. The Council on Foreign Relations has heavily influenced on the political process in American elections. That's why I don't want to hear shit about no damn elections. That's why I don't give a fuck about no Democratic, Republican. That's why I'll give that. And this is not me saying that, that like when motherfuckers vote, that they just kind of secretly throw them away and all that. No, we talking about like influence. Like, it's very sophisticated. The people that they put in front of you to choose from is what I'm saying, is the thing. The people that's funded enough to actually get through the, the cracks, and what I'm saying? Because it's really the same people you see up there, just about every political term. We always be like maybe one new person that come into the mix, and you see Ron Paul and Rand Paul, the motherfuckers that's never gonna win up there, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
One black guy, and you know what I'm saying?
It's always excited like a mug about him every year too, every 4 years.
Yeah.
What you think about Ted Bush?
Right. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, who you fooling? Like, the same clowns is up there. You know what I'm saying? What's the dude that got caught up in the sex scandal? What's his name?
Not the black. You talking about
the white boy?
Christie. Doug. No, not Doug Christie.
No, not Christie. The other one. I forget his. But he's up there every time, bro. At a point in time, it was like Hillary Clinton. Like, you see the same clowns up there every time. You know what I'm saying? There's always like one person that they hit you with the Obama phenomenon. Boom, they throw a little cup, a little new person here and there in the mix and whatever. You know what I'm saying? Or somebody that was groomed, because now Ron Paul is getting older, so now you see his son Rand Paul is now he put him in there. So he's continuing like just this perspective to make it look like, okay, all these crackers got different perspectives on how to run a country, and like we're looking to see, but it's all the same clowns up there. So that's what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying?
I would come from the same school of thought.
Yeah. So that's what I'm talking about. How the whole shit is designed. And then I'm not going to get into the whole electoral college and all that type of shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, the popular vote and, So, Council on Foreign Relations. You know what I'm saying? As what you were saying, like, these are the, that's what you can read right here. It says, Undaunted Colonel House, along with both British and American Peace Conference delegates, met in Paris Majestic Hotel on May 30th, 1919, and resolved to form the Institute of International Affairs. One branch in the United States and one in England. The English branch became the Royal Institute of International Affairs, which is actually Chatham House, which was created by the secret society that was established by Cecil Rhodes. And the American branch, or the United States, what it says, the English branch became the Royal Institute of International Affairs. This institute was to guide public opinion towards acceptance of one world government or globalism. The U.S. branch was incorporated on July 21st, 1921 as the Council on Foreign Relations. What more can I say? That's it right there, bro. Now read about the Council of Foreign Relations and their influence on the political process of when they put money into a particular person, that person most likely is going to win. When they support a particular, that person most likely is going to win. Those people that even get into this electoral process, that who influence once they're in office, who has influence on those individuals? Council on Foreign Relations. What is their objectives and what is their goals? Globalism.
Right.
I'm not dealing with no tentacle shit. I don't have tentacle arguments. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yep.
understanding that, who created these organizations? Who is this man? Joseph Rittinger. He was a person that was in the mix, in this secret, in this elitist circle where they began to have these meetings. Once again, as I said, Cecil Rhodes started a secret society. We had an inner circle and an outer circle, and their objective and aims was to promote British Anglo-American globalism, and so they began to have meetings, just a meeting of the minds and bringing in intellectuals and people with resources that can, come up with ideas of how to make this thing actually work. Joseph Rittinger was a person that attended one of these meetings, and you could see that, he would get involved with a lot of the American philanthropists and the American aristocracy. Those would be the Harrimans, and he would be one of the founders of what they call the Bilderberg Society, the Bilderberg Group. And you know that every year, like, the president of the United States, because I remember the year that Obama actually went to the Bilderberg meeting, all these groups of people, they go and have these meetings, and the hotel, we don't know exactly, they don't really have a name. Actually, this is what something that the people that actually begin to see these meetings occur called them, because initially is at a Bilderberg hotel, I believe, or something along those lines. So they call it the Bilderberg Group, but we don't know what the fuck they call themselves. But what we do know is that they had these meetings every year. We got these princes over in the Netherlands, and all these different people come together. I think Oprah was involved in one of them joints. Like, people with political power and, influence, and very rich people, and people that, own countries, and all these groups of people come together and they have these meetings. We don't know what the fuck they talking about. You know what I'm saying? He is one of the individuals that created the Bilderberg Group, Joseph Rittinger. Who is Joseph Rittinger? Who is he? Co-founder of the Bilderberg Group. So when you say co-founder, that means that there's another person involved, or another people involved. In this situation, there's another person involved because he's a co-founder. Prince Bernhard is the other co-founder of the Bilderberg Group. Who is Prince Bernhard? He was a former Nazi. These are just facts. So the people that formed the Bilderberg Group, right? One of the co-founders was a Nazi soldier.
I bet they ain't gonna find him 50 years, 100 years later.
Okay, so let's stop right there, right? So if one of the co-founders was a former Nazi soldier, right?
Right.
What do you think the organization is about? What do you think they like? You know what I'm saying?
Alien race.
Yeah. So like now, what makes this problematic? That the damn president of the United States go there every year.
Yep.
Every year they had these Bilderberg meetings, and you got Oprah up in that motherfucker. You got what makes that problematic? Guess where Oprah's at? She's in Africa.
Right. Funnily. All kind of shit.
All different types of shit going on. You know? And
I
she's
noticed
on women's school.
All girls school. Yeah.
Oh, girls' school.
That shit dangerous.
Look into that. Look into that. That's just what it is. Now you could dig a little deeper. A lot of y'all don't want to deal with this aspect of it because there's a lot of when you're talking about Nazi Germany, right? People deal with it from a political standpoint. A lot of times they deal with it from a political, like in Nazi Germany, and you know.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a religious political movement. It was an occult aspect
Mm-hmm.
to Nazi Germany. Ivan Lieberthal and these different raceologist people, and this kind of goes somewhat into Madame Blavatsky and these different root race theories and the superior. Remember, if when you read about Nazis, they was trying to go into the Himalayas.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were searching for some stuff that would substantiate a lot of the rhetoric that he was running with. You know, certain different things when you get into the occult aspect of it. This is why they were so die hard. This wasn't just like politics and just, you know.
It was an ideology.
It was a belief system. It was a religion. A lot of people don't understand that shit. Now, you're looking at, I'll use symbols, because symbols, obviously the cross is a symbol that represents Christianity. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, the crest and the moon represent Islam today. You know, like, you know, so you got these symbols. The star represents, you know, the Judaism, and like it kind of is a religious thing.
And what's crazy is when you go into that, because what was wild, I found the star and the crescent being used on the money in Ethiopia like 400, 500 years before Islam was even thought of.
Right.
And that goes back to the same place the cross goes back to. It went back, they both went back to Anatolia.
Yeah, because you remember, like, you know, even the swastika was like even before, you know, Nazi Germany. Like the Nazis, they didn't originate the swastika.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, looking at these symbols, right? Now you see the skull and crossbones that's on the hats of the Nazis, right? Represent skull and bones in American society, American secret society. That's at Yale University. And this is all conspiracy theory shit.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, in that image below right here, right? If y'all can see the pointer, that's George Bush Sr. right there, bro.
Let me see. Hold on.
Yeah, that's George Bush Sr. Like on that skull and bones pic. Oh, let me see if I can get the pointer.
Oh, in the center. Or is he the one on the right?
This him right here.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
That's George Bush Sr. right there. Remember Skull and Bones? George Bush Jr. was a part of Skull and Bones too.
Yeah. I remember he got old buddy Kerry, got old buddy too.
John
Oh yeah.
Kerry. John Kerry.
Yeah.
Was, you know. I
He
think
got
his
old
name,
buddy
his
Tim.
Skull and Bones name was Little Devil or something like that. Kerry's yeah. And George Bush Sr. name, I believe, was Magog. Shit. That shit sound crazy if I was just to say that. But that's why you gotta connect the dots. And like, you know what I'm saying? Like, now inside of the university, they had this whole shrine, you know, where it was like a Nazi memorabilia. It was somebody that snuck into they call it the tomb. It snuck inside of the tomb, and they went in there and they seen Nazi memorabilia, always like almost like, you know, just this this thing that they had where they was kind of commemorating Nazi Germany inside of Yale University, Skull and Bones Secret Society Temple, they call it tomb. But we know now that the reason why is because they funded Nazi Germany. They funded the institutions as far as the eugenic science. Eugenics started here in America. It was Harry Laughlin and Paul Popenowie in California that Adolf Hitler actually used the philosophy to implement onto the Rhineland. So a lot of the eugenic laws and a lot of eugenic philosophies that was implemented in the United States, Adolf Hitler would study and then use that in Nazi Germany. So when you're looking across the board from the philosophy, the funding, you know, the political support, the propaganda that they were swaying. Remember, they made Adolf Hitler was the man of the year in Time magazine in 1939. Heavily promoted.
So they sold out. I forgot where it was in New York. They had like a whole little Nazi function and shit in New York at one of the little stadiums or one of their famous little places. I mean, it was packed out too, because they was trying to jump it off over here too.
Right. So the man that you see is standing beside Adolf Hitler in the upper right corner right there. That's the co-founder of the Bilderberg. Chilling with your main man, Adolf Hitler. Okay. Cool. The Bilderberg group exists today. What the fuck? What are they talking about? You see George Bush Sr. up there looking like a damn box-head ass motherfucker right there. Yeah, bro. So yeah, you see, you know, once I set it up so that you can see like this roundtable group and, you know, these different individuals that started these organizations and what would be the objective of these individuals as to why they begin these organizations in the first place. And you run into the same different categories. And as what you can see with the Club of Rome, they actually put out the philosophy of why the population should be controlled. And they make it into like a global, you know, issue with the quality of life on a planet and overconsumption and the effects that it can have on the environment. So this is all they mixing all this shit up to make it very difficult to really map out for a person that doesn't do due diligence and research.
Right.
Because really, you going back into this man Malthus, and it's going back into the late 1700s, and he wrote these essays on the principles of population. And like, if left unchecked, the population could override Earth's capacity to produce food, and that would be what they call a Malthusian trap or the Malthusian catastrophe. And so, to prevent that, the Earth regulates itself through famine, disease, and war. This is what he's saying. This is philosophy. And you see Malthusians existing to this day. When you hear the term loosely, they use it as a derogatory term now in politics, but you still see that being spoken of. And you also, when you're looking at the philosophy and the political aims of the Club of Rome, which is an actual organization, people, that it reflects the philosophies of Malthus.
Yeah, that's the Malthusian.
Yeah, they're still Malthusian, the Club of Rome, and
Yeah.
who funds the Club of Rome? And this is what they're saying, and this is the book. This is the book that they actually put out. It's a law of nature that a vacuum will be filled and therefore eliminated unless this is physically prevented. Nature, as the saying goes, abhors a vacuum. And people, as children of nature, can only feel comfortable even though they may not recognize that they are living in a vacuum. How then is the vacuum to be eliminated? It would seem that humans need a common motivation, namely a common adversary, to organize and act together in the vacuum. Such a motivation must be found to bring the divided nations together to face an outside enemy, either a real one or else one invented for the purpose. New enemies, therefore, have to be identified, new strategies imagined, new weapons devised. The common enemy of humanity is man. So now, in the philosophy of the Club of Rome, they're saying that we had to find an enemy to get everybody on board with what this overall global agenda is. And they came to the conclusion that the common enemy of humanity is humanity itself. In search for a new enemy to unite us, we came up with the idea that pollution, the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine, and the like would fit the bill. All these dangers are caused by human intervention, and it is only through change attitudes and behavior that they can be overcome. The real enemy then is humanity itself. So, this is one of the foundations, or one of the philosophies that served as the foundation of why they go into third world nations with contraceptives. Now, think about this. Because, it's a package deal. They do humanitarian work in those third world nations by providing them with food and clean water. But at the same time, you have to take these contraceptives because, once again, humanity is the problem. The reason why you're poor is humanity. No, it's not necessarily about the population when you look at really the overall scheme of things. It's the quality of living that certain people want to have at the expense of other people. So, when you're looking at the Western nations and how much we consume in comparison to other third world nations, we throw food away. Look at the end of the day in McDonald's. All these and that's just what the major restaurants, but we know that even the small restaurants, because we want our food fresh, and if it ain't fresh, we ain't fucking with it. So at the end of the day, they throw away so much food. We got surplus of food. So much so that if it ain't fresh and like tasting right, we don't even want that shit no more. Throw it away. It should be in the trash. Our rats eat better than certain nations. But they make an argument that the problem is humans. No, it ain't all humans. It's a certain group of humans. That's the problem. Because when you talk about industrialization, and even when you talk about water pollution, which came as a result of the Industrial Revolution, this was all done by and orchestrated and ushered in by Europe and the United States, bro. eventually China, began to industrialize, and the different Asian nations, but the people who actually ushered it in, it wasn't the whole world. It wasn't Africa. It wasn't Vietnam. It wasn't Southeast Asia. But they blame the whole world. Well, we did this. And then they go into those third world nations and they begin to implement these policies and force them. You know what I'm saying? Using these arguments. So the Club of Rome, philosophy for population control.
You know what's crazy though? Because you can see it in all aspects of the things that hold up life, like in these forms of life, whether it's like religion or the system, they all rely on you not like the distrust of each other and each other being the issue. And like we have to have this system where we take advantage of people. Otherwise, everybody would just be taking advantage of everybody. You know what I'm saying? So let's have a system where we control who can take advantage of. And you know what I'm saying? So it's like, the reason why we have to control the food supply or none, the population control is because there's not enough food, and people are greedy, so we have to control how the food is distributed.
Like it always runs like the same exact game over and over again, but they all hold up each other. Because even on the religious level, it still has to rely on not only you being not, somebody that's not trustworthy and all of that, but the people around you aren't trustworthy. You know what I'm saying? And this is why you got to fall in line, because you can't trust those people. They never going to tell you the truth. They never going to have your best interests at heart. And you know what I'm saying? So it all upholds in general. That's why I say you can see their ideology play out throughout all forms of like all forms of these different systems and shit that we living through. Let me see. Oh yeah, the Club of Rome.
Yeah, that's facts. That's facts. They have you jumping from one leg to another. Whether it's like, from this perspective, all kind of saying the same thing, all just trying to grab a piece of this access to resources. All has this agenda, And once you break it down, you see that all this is being controlled by like groups of people. Once again, you're connecting a lot of the philosophies, as what you can read here. They attack this thing from different areas, all for the same purpose. They force these nations to industrialize. Then they blame those nations for industrialization. Oh yeah, you're a threat to the quality of the planet, and you're a detriment to our standard of living. You're polluting the waters, and all these different stuff that they actually use to push in or usher in whatever they trying to get the world to succumb to. And obviously with this globalization is aspects of control. That's an element within it. And once again, this oligarchy of individuals that's trying to have just total domination, almost like becoming in a way like gods over the planet. Like they control the food. They want to control the food. They want to control every aspect of your life, The founders of the Club of Rome. Here you go. You always see Rockefeller in there. Rockefeller's always in there. You always see them. We got this Pesci individual over there and Alexander King over there. Do your research on these individuals and see, who they affiliated with and what they do. And once again, Rockefeller family, they were German immigrants over here into the early 18th century, and so the picture becomes more vivid to see why they supported Nazi Germany. They're fucking Germans. Makes simple sense. Talk about Percy Rockefeller and how he was able to smuggle arms into the from the United States into Nazi Germany, and all these different things. You know what I'm saying? So dealing with the eugenics aspect of what we're talking about, kind of bringing this thing home, as what I said about Frederick Osborne, changing certain eugenics terms into genetic terms. That was one of the things that he wanted to implement, as what you could see this quote from a letter that was written. He said Osborne was able to confidently write to Paul Popenowie. Once again, Paul Popenowie was the one that implemented eugenic policy in California. And Adolf Hitler became interested in the way he was implementing eugenic policies in California. And he would send some German scientists over there to research how that was being implemented. And once they came back to Adolf Hitler and Nazi Germany with a lot of information and a lot of the strategies on how to implement that, he would then put that into legislation and begin to implement that into Nazi Germany. And the first thing that they did was they sterilized what they referred to as the Rhineland Bastards. And Rhineland Bastards were, Senegalese troops that actually came as a result of the World War I. Remember, the Germans lost World War I, and they had to pay reparations to the French. So the French, had political sway. They colonized Senegal, so they was able to, train some Senegalese troops to help them during World War I, and they would keep those Senegalese troops in the Rhineland once the war was over. And those Senegalese troops would then mate with a lot of the German women. And when they produced a child, that's what they would call them. They would call them Rhineland Bastards, And when we see in World War II, that was the first policy that was implemented by Nazi Germany that was centered around eugenics. It would be the sterilization of those children. So he got that from Paul Popenowie. So Frederick Osborne was writing to Paul Popenowie. So now you got these eugenicists, they're communicating. So he said the term genetics has taken the place to the term negative eugenics. So this is what, it's not a conspiracy theory, bro. The term genetics has taken the place of the term negative eugenics. Keeping a low profile, it paid off. On April 12, 1965, Osborne wrote to a colleague at Duke University somewhat triumphantly. We had struggled for years to rid the word eugenics of all racial and social connotation and have finally been successful with most scientists, if not with the public. That's what he's saying. So what's the agenda? What would be an agenda now? Okay, going back to what I initially started this whole thing out with. Frederick Osborne, John D. Rockefeller, John Foster Dulles created the Population Council. That's an organization that exists to this very day. These people are eugenicists. These people are people that, want to implement forms of population control and lower the population. They have racist intentions, and they ultimately are globalists, so that's the reality of the situation. There's really nothing you could do or say about that. That's just what it is. So yeah, so like I said, I did this presentation like a million times already. but I think it was worth actually doing now because of the fact that, you know,
You can see it
this
in real time.
you can see the Roe versus Wade decision and how it's being orchestrated along the political lines and how they use certain talking points to get us to look at it from this particular perspective. That it has to be like, you know, you have to bring people home. This thing is being done in stages. You know, they take time, they project, they're very crafty. They'll wait 30 years to actually make the next move. They be on shit like that. They be on that type of time. Like, we're not gonna move this until 30 years, let it sit for 30 years, and then make the next move. That's how, you know, calculated these individuals are. You know, so it may go down, you know, had to pass the agenda over to the next generation type shit for it to, you know, so yeah, you know, that's why I'm offering to the conversation of the Roe versus Wade, you know, so people gonna have they shit on that, you know what I mean? So with that being said, I'm about to get down on this salmon and allow Blue to go in. I'm sit back, go on mute for a minute.
I'm good. Yeah. I think definitely though, when we look at it from, you know, from all aspects, like, and it's crazy because it's like the witchcraft behind it is like everything is written on like or done in multiple layers, and so it's so many different layers you can always understand things, and so it's like we can see one thing and it be true on a higher level, and then maybe on like a mid tier, it's also some truth there, and then even for the people on the lower level, is truth there. So it's like when we look at like Roe versus Wade, you can look at it from like a normal political point of view, and there's truth there. You know what I'm saying? You can look at it from, you know, from how things normally affect us on the street. You know, because I think most of the attitude that a lot of us have is that it, like, regardless of what gets passed or done or whatever it is, it don't affect us anyway, right? It really ain't gonna have like no true bearing on the. But you know what I'm saying, like none of that. So it's almost like at the point to where like we've got to be able to kind of like step outside of the game and look at what's going on, how it's being played. I think I was talking about it earlier. Like, we got to get to a point we stop watching the ball. You know what I'm saying? Like, we watching the ball so much that we not seeing everybody really out there on the court is on the same team. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you watching the ball, you know what I'm saying? The wrestling looks real. It looks real. It looks authentic. But when you actually step back and you actually watching what's going on, I think then you begin to see, you know, people taking a dive. This dude ain't really out there trying. Like, you know, it's just multiple levels. So I think that I think in general, I think we got to do a better job of not only just like deciphering things and you know, when it comes to how we planning on how we plan on attacking, you know what I'm saying, different discussions, different systems and stuff like that. I think it's multiple levels that we have to fight on, but I think that as a collective, we're gonna have to figure out what's the main like the main goal, right? What is like the main thing that we fight for? I think in many ways, some of the things that it's gonna come down to is that we're gonna have to really redefine Oh no, baby, no good. But I think that like a lot of it is we gonna have to start redefining, right? How we the ways that we view uh uh the ways that we like I said, the ways that we view war, right? And the way that we see fighting. And for right now, we only see it through their lens. And like they got that sold up. You know what I'm saying? Like every aspect of 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 war today and everything that you can think of as far as from their point of view is sold up. The only thing that hasn't been sold up is thinking outside of the box, changing the game, right? What is the new wave? What is the new form of splitting atoms? Like, what is the new form of splitting atoms? What is the like? Dang, I'm just talking. I know what far away from. Like, what is like the new form of like gunpowder, splitting atoms, like all of that? What are we bringing to the table that 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 makes our fight look different, right, than theirs? Because at the end, it has to look different. It didn't look the same for the Hittites when they came in on horses. That didn't look the same to the Egyptians. When the Egyptians came back and strapped chariots to the back of the horses, that looked totally different to the Hittites. You know what I'm saying? The spears, the bows, being able to, when the Sudanese was able to ride on the chariot and fire the bow with that. You know what I'm saying? So at some point we got to start getting back, and that's why it starts to become like part of the problem is we're having trouble with our imagination. We're having trouble creating. We're having trouble thinking outside of the box. Like a lot of that type of stuff we're kind of fighting with. And so like everything that we're doing, by it being within the confines of the game or the confines of the game or whatever, it's like it becomes easily predictable. I always say like everything that whatever we do, it has to be to a point where it can't be put inside of a computer and simulated, right? They just run the numbers and you know what I'm saying? Oh, well, we know this and that. We know they're going to do this. We know they're going to do A, B, and Z or C or whatever it is, right? At some point, the game plan has to become something that is that's actually truly unpredictable, right? That hasn't been thought of, hasn't been seen yet, right? Has yet to be imagined. And I know that's in us, And I think in a lot of ways, we look at it like it's something that's going to have to be aggressive. This isn't something that necessarily has to be aggressive, right? This doesn't necessarily mean that, hey, I'm going to constantly say that, right? It can be something that is created to be it's so defensive that it is offensive, right? I think we've seen examples of for some people, their best offense being a defense, right? Or teams or whatever it is. And so I think we can find different forms of strength and different forms of just everything, of how we use our skills. But I think we still stuck in a box. Even when we talk about communication and how we gonna communicate with each other and different things like that, it's still within the confines of the game. We're still heavily reliant on, on just the internet, just the landlines, just whether we got to go back to training falcons or pigeons or whatever. Like, we got to do something, though, that says that, okay, yeah, we build all of this up And let's just say they decide that it's worth it for them. Even like right now, the Roe versus Wade, they feel like it's worth it, right, to change that because they like, you know, regardless of what happens, based on them, they willing to risk, they willing to chance, you know, us slipping through the cracks on this to save themselves. So in a lot of situations, you'll see that develop more than once, right? You can easily put yourself in predicaments to kind of, you know, basically cause a true shift in how the system is functioning, right? And really ain't even about really changing it or shifting it. It's really about destroying it. And so it really ain't how the system functions. You're really trying to make a shift in how people think. So that's just really the first thing. Once we kind of change on how we look at things, like what upholds these people is that their ideology, I constantly say it, is the standard. It's the standard. Like it's not one way of living or one aspect. It's the standard to the point that anything that's not that is below standard. The countries and the places that are considered below standard, he mentioned it earlier, are the places that can't afford to just throw food away. The reason why they talk about getting rid of it, it's impossible. There will never be a day where everybody on the planet can just have a bunch of these McDonald's and all of these different places that are just wasting food, wasting water, wasting, you know, resources. That's not an option. I think at the end of the day, you end up falling into, you know, some of the same traps. So hold on. I do got another clip. Let me check. Yeah,
We're
here we
back
go
now with
right here.
international reaction to the decision by the Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade. President Biden is in Germany for a major summit with G7 leaders, with the war in Ukraine topping the agenda. But ahead of that meeting, some of those leaders have condemned the ruling. Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau called the news, quote, horrific, saying his heart goes out to millions of American women. He added, quote, no government, politician, or man should tell a woman what she can and cannot do with her body. France's President Emmanuel Macron expressed his solidarity with women, tweeting, quote, abortion is a fundamental right. It must be protected. Those views were also echoed by British Prime Minister Boris Johnson.
This is not our court, it's another jurisdiction, but clearly it has massive impacts on people's thinking around the world. It's a very important decision. I've got to tell you, I think it's a big step backwards. I've always believed in a woman's right to choose, and I stick to that view.
NBC News senior White House correspondent Kelly O'Donnell is covering the G7 meeting in Germany from just across the border in Austria. Kelly, good morning. Thanks for being with us. So, I mean, strong reaction there from some of these G7 leaders about this decision. First, let's just talk about the timing of this ruling. I mean, the fact that it comes right as President Biden is among all these other leaders, the focus wanted to be on something like Ukraine. But what does this moment now mean for America on the world stage?
Well, it is interesting that the focus on what is happening at home always travels with an American president. And certainly these leaders have registered their views, and it does affect an American president if there is turmoil and division at home. At the same time, they are here for a limited amount of time to work on very serious issues. And so leaders at this level are able to compartmentalize. And President Biden was asked if this decision has come up in the conversations, and he said it has not, at least not in any of the formal dialogue between the leaders. He is aware of the views of these leaders who he has dealt with and has a personal relationship with. And certainly when there is ever some kind of division, unrest, distress in the United States, that affects certainly how the American president is viewed on the world stage. Of course, President Biden is not directly involved in this kind of a decision. The Supreme Court is a separate branch of government, but they are also able to put that aside, if you will. Does it affect sort of the American reputation? Perhaps it does in the eyes of some of the other leaders, but they are able to focus on the work at hand. So it's hard to separate what is happening at home from what the president has to deal with here. But if there is a group who can do that separating, it is probably these leaders who have some very serious business to attend to here. Savannah?
And Kelly, let's move away from abortion rights for a minute and talk about what would have been the focus otherwise, but is still a huge focus, the war in Ukraine, one of the many issues at this summit. President Zelensky spoke to leaders just earlier this morning, and it was just a day after Kyiv was hit once again with missiles. Tell us about his message and what kind of support is the G7 offering?
Can't stress enough how much Ukraine is what is bringing these leaders together. And President Biden is saying that one of his chief objectives here is to try to keep that unity. And so far, we are seeing that. And the virtual address by President Zelensky into these leaders who he has a personal, almost day-to-day relationship with on the telephone, makes a difference. And so he has been asking for financial and military support. And we know from our reporting that the U.S. is stepping up with additional resources. We know that the U.S. will provide a new surface-to-air missile system for Ukraine, also additional munitions and radar. And the group collectively is taking steps to try to put more pressure on Russia to bar the import of Russian gold, to try to take steps with additional sanctions, and to keep that pressure up on Russia so that it has financial penalties and more condemnation from the world community to make it harder for Russia to wage this war in Ukraine. So Ukraine is certainly dominating a lot of what they've been discussing here, in addition to other issues about infrastructure around the world, climate, and other matters. It is Ukraine, Ukraine, Ukraine for a lot of what these leaders have been talking about.
All right, Kelly O'Donnell, as always, thank you so much for your reporting.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.
So yeah, I think it kind of says it all. And then I'm definitely gonna have to do something on this fake ass war. I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. Definitely gonna have to do that. The non-bloody war, the no blood war. It's a little bit ridiculous. But yeah, I think it just kind of goes to say, we talk about the reaction of the leaders and this and that. These type of moves are made from the top down, right? It's always the trickle down effect, right? Same thing when they claim with the economics, we'll do the trickle down effect, and eventually it'll make its way down to the poor people. It's the same thing. It's the trickle down effect, right? So unlike the money though, that never seems to make it to the bottom, it's these type of policies usually directly affect the bottom. And I think that's what we kind of got to look at when we kind of look at these policies is, okay, we know how it affect people who are kind of educated. It probably won't have that much effect on the people who can kind of, who can kind of afford maybe a lawyer or whatever it is. I think though the issue is going to be with the people who are most vulnerable in our society, right? The people who usually get taken advantage of. The people who, we talk about that go to court and have to rely on the public defender, right? Like, these are the people who are usually 9 times out of 10 at the mercy of the state or at the mercy of the system or at the mercy of whatever new laws there is that's set up, whether it's the type of deal that they take during the plea bargain, whatever it is, right? Whatever it is, it you usually don't see the effect of the rhetoric that's coming from the top until you like able to kind of zoom in on who's at the bottom. And when you zoom in, you'll see who's being 9 times out of 10 being attacked by these new policies. And so I think one thing to kind of keep our eye out on is, I think we will need to look at some of the people that are in our lower class, or what we call at the poverty line or below the poverty line, and kind of look and see how does this new agenda affect them. You know what I'm saying? And they talk about it, in a lot of ways. I think when they talk about population control, it's happened in a way, whether it's been society dictating it or it's been the food that we've been eating. It's already happened, right? When you look at most families, they're not having more than 2 kids, 1 or 2 kids for the most part. 3 is like today, 3 is an anomaly. And you talking about 20, 30 years ago when we was having like 16, 17 each, right? On a regular, you would see people with 5, 6, 7 babies. That time is gone. It's a lot of different factors that play into that. Like I said, the social norms have changed. The financially, like how people view it has changed. Like it's just multiple layers on multiple layers. And then you add in abortions, and you add in the morning after pill, all of these different factors, all of them. But a lot of times, I think we see the same thing play out, is that they usually end up being a way for them to make an example of us. Anytime we see it, whenever there's a big national outrage about gun violence and guns in the community, usually the next step is a direct attack on us, right? They use those different policies to talk about how they're going to control black people with guns. Because one thing that we do know, they're not advertising to take white people guns. Just not. That's not something that they like, that they truly trying to, big up, different things like that. But here, when you look at our communities, there's always some system for you to come in and turn in a gun. Whether it's anonymous or you doing it, you know what I'm saying, to get paid. However it is, we got 1,000 different ways for black people to come and drop off a gun when you find it, to call the police when you see somebody with a gun. So a lot of the gun control arguments and different discussions only affect us negatively. And usually it's not how we get the guns that is how we affect it. 9 times out of 10, it's usually the laws after we already obtained, right? After we already have these weapons, that's usually where we affect it. Because you can change the law on how we supposed to get certain weapons, as far as as far as ID or whatever restrictions, but that's never how I got a gun, nor anybody I ever knew. So it's like, okay, so you make the law stricter on ID. How does that stop me from getting it? Exactly. Like, that doesn't change anything. So what discussion are you guys having exactly? And usually what it comes down to is what type of gun we have, how much time they're going to give us when we get caught with one, and what you see is a lot of times the gun control argument is based on certain areas, certain demographics. And so nightly, what they do is they'll overplay the gun violence in our communities to get us revved up and feel like we need to unarm ourselves or 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 disarm ourselves. It's a game. That's why I say at some point in time we have YouTube for us or just different social platforms in general has to become black propaganda. We get enough of the witchcraft that's being performed against us by the regular media. There's plenty of that going on. There's plenty of news outlets that's going to make it seem like any nigga that's walking around with a gun is 9 times out of 10 a threat to your life. And to naturally make you kind of feel that way. Natural. But it's a loss. It's not true. So I think we do have, and I'm not saying that, us being armed is like the answer, but I am saying that disarming ourselves definitely ain't the answer. That ain't a good move either. I think a lot of times I think when we talk about agapic energy, the main point of it is just not being aggressive. It's like the energy that we choose to fight with and why you doing it, the direction you headed in, what you're looking to accomplish. You're not looking to just push the energy back around into a circle. We're looking to change that energy. Hold on. All right, yeah. So, my fault, somebody was knocking at the door, but yeah, in general, we just gotta look at things in general differently. And I think when we start winning is when they're not able to play the reverse psychology. Like, oh, you just don't want to compete. Or you just don't know. We do want to compete, but on our own terms. On the playing field where we make the rules. The same way that you was able to manipulate us into playing on your field and under your rules and thinking that was going to be the way to get out of it all. Now we doing things different now. The mindset is different now. We understand there's only one source. So it's multiple ways for you to do things. Right? Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I think man, we done brought out a lot of information today. I think it's probably more than enough. I look like I got a few things going on in my background. Look like Solar also got a few things going on in his. So yeah. That being said, I'm gonna knock out this. It's good to have another stream back on some information. There will be many more to come. I promise you that there will be many more to come. I'm definitely gonna be probably going in next on this Ukraine and Russian war, so called whatever. I know for sure Solar got some more things in the works to bring out. So we'll be having some more presentations and stuff like that on the way. But y'all, power to the dark side.
Sending shots with this chop, that's a dick pic. I can't mix with your block, I'm a misfit. Slide on my feet for a mission. Finna light your street up like it's Christmas. In a Shark Tank, talking big shit. Even out my pond, I'm a big fish. In a Shark Tank, talking big shit. Even out my pond, I'm a big fish. My nigga never leave a mission unfinished. Record still spotless, little nigga unblemished. You can feel the tension change every time they mention me. That song game, run his name, it's still squeaky clinky history. Put him out his brains and his misery. Seriously, here he switching teams, wipe his memory. Instantly, on replay, I see it vividly. In the streets, they bumping your guns, now you looking weak. Got in his face for the fade and he couldn't speak, cooking he. Heard his own mama couldn't look at him. Left him on his knees, facing east like a Muslim. Destroy a nigga temple, break it down like Jerusalem. I'm finna have the streets on key and a padlock. And I got a lawyer like Madlock. I can never fold, I'm no laptop. You ain't never in the game, you a mascot. Sending shots with this chop, that's a dick pic. I can't mix with your block, I'm a misfit. Slide on my feet for a mission. Finna light up your street like it's Christmas. In a Shark Tank, talking big shit. Even out my pond, I'm a big fish. In a Shark Tank, talking big shit. Even out my pond, I'm a big fish. I swear to God, they ain't never seen this much sauce. Finna cut a rug like a bus off. Pray to God that my jam don't get cut off. I'ma do the dance in the trance, let me get off. I'm at the center of two ladies playing pickle. You can call me Malcolm, I'm the man in the middle. Catch me on stage pulling strings like a fiddle. Chevy chasing cheese like my name's Stuart Little. She like a rough, I push her brains in the pillow. Ask her if she rolling and she hand me the Rillo. So I'm twisting up this raspberry drizzle. And every single puff like a bag full of Skittles. And you gon' think they pulling chairs when I hit the flow. Right behind her pulling hair while she hit the dro. I got that 40 on my hip while she getting low. And I think she getting wet when she feel the pole. Sending shots with this chop, that's a dick pic. I can't mix with your block, I'm a misfit. Slide on my feet for a mission. Finna light your street up like it's Christmas. In a Shark Tank, talking big shit. Even out my pond, I'm a big fish. In a Shark Tank, talking big shit. Even out my pond, I'm a big fish. Just know that everything behind me soon to pass away. Ballin' on our own island, no castaway. I was trying to learn the craft, I can't masquerade. Every time we make magic, yeah, gotta have the cake. They say the flowers in May scream from the showers in April. Burning sage by the pound, all of our crystals is labeled. Try to line your re with meditation, you able. And you might get a read, tarot cards on the table. And she better have an altar in her living room. Really ever lighting candles cause she in the mood. Not to mention love spells she was sending through. Tip a kissing too old soon if you feeling blue. It feels strange to find a guide on a voyage. No, you ain't the same, I can feel it in your aura. Came on point like the horns of a Taurus. Say you won't change, better take that thing to oil. Have to thank the constellations for the day they made you. Shit, ever since a minor, I've been playing major. Call me Private Ryan, I was trying to save you. See the stars is all the line and they designing greatness. So why be racing when we only chasing soul ties? You finna be the centerpiece of my soul tribe. No twin flame soulmates from an old life. So I'm thinking Maurice and you know why.
That girl bad, that